Hi, this is Anthony Melchiorri, and I'd like to tell you about Link Floor LVT from Porcelanosa. When it comes to choosing guest room flooring, Link Floor makes for an easy decision. It wins hands down. I know from experience, after renovating tens of thousands of hotel rooms, the need for speed and a fast turnaround are key to a successful installation. But let me back up for a second. I'm a clean freak, and guess what? Guests not only expect to check into a clean room, they demand it. Cleanliness and in-room air quality are essential to guest satisfaction scores and drives a hotel's profitability. I travel a lot, and when I'm staying in hotels, I like to work out in my room. So I usually throw a few towels down on the carpet, and when you're doing push-ups, your eyes are at floor level, and you can sometimes see things that bring me back to my point. Now, I'm the greatest supportive housekeeping staff, the most important team in the hotel business. Without them, we don't have a business. So anything that improves their effectiveness is a no-brainer. And Link Floor LVT can be cleaned in less than half the time it takes to vacuum a carpet. And I mean clean, sanitized, odor-free, no stains. Today's hotels need harder working rooms, and Link Floor is an operational deliverable. And to the fact that it also installs in half the time of other flooring, and it is quiet. Sound-absorbent built-in noise control ensures Link Floor delivers the best level of acoustical comfort to the property. And of course, it's beautiful. Porcelanosa has designed LVT planks to replicate the elegance of natural wood, stone, and tough woven finishes to keep these floors looking great every day. Go to porcelanosa.com and click on Link Floor tab to see why the designers I know and love the company and loves what it does for the hotel industry. And for great service on your next project, send an email to info@Hotel Design Podcast and let them know Anthony sent you.
It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's checking in with Anthony and Glenn.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Hotel Design Podcast with me, your host, Glenn Haussman. But today is super special because it's a little bit of a crossover episode. For those of you who don't know, I also do a great show with Anthony Melchiorri called Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. What's up, my man?
Am I on the Design Podcast?
You're on a both podcast. This
Wow.
is half Checking In, half Hotel Design.
I'm shocked. Who's this guy who's about to talk into the microphone?
All right, so we got an amazing special guest today.
This guy's mouth open, but you know
I
it's
know.
coming
I mean,
out.
Can't you tell I'm on an ensemble cast? Like I'm so nice how I like wait till everyone else is finished speaking.
But that's really nice of you, Bobby. But I'm already excited because Mr. Bobby Berk is here. You probably know him from Queer Eye. How are you, man?
Good. How are you? Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to have you here today. This has been great. We've gotten to know each other a little bit over the last year, and it has been so much fun watching all of the success that you've been having.
Thank you.
You know, he's
Yeah.
you know, he's an impressive guy for everything that he's done, and he's on Queer Eye on Netflix, one of the biggest shows on Netflix. But he doesn't realize that he's on the biggest podcast in the hospitality business. Does he know that?
No. I don't. Oh,
He
mic
just dropped
drop,
his
baby.
mic.
That was the sound of a mic drop, ladies and gentlemen.
So, I think to just get us started, I'm curious, Bobby, how does a kid from Missouri wind up in your space right now?
I have no idea. It just happened. A lot of sheer,
Just woke up one day,
a lot of
Netflix
sheer
said, "Hey,
dumb
you star?"
luck. A lot of hard work.
Yeah,
I mean,
of
a lot of drive. I mean, how long do we have?
As long as we need.
Well, because of Glenn, I'm actually here in Vegas at the Hotel Design Show, and last year I was invited also, and that's where I met Bobby.
Yes, that's
and I'm
right.
sitting next to Bobby.
No.
Yes.
No.
I met you in Arizona.
We met in Arizona.
Right, in Arizona.
Yeah.
Okay,
For
I met you in
the,
Arizona. I
Which
met
was
last
not the
year-
design show.
For the same competition.
For the hotel
Same
desi-
competition, yes.
Right. I'm sorry. I was corrected by Bobby.
Well, I'm just saying we've known each other longer.
Right. Yes, we have.
Yeah.
But because of Glenn, I was invited to go be involved in this hotel design contest for Hilton, the box. And
You were
I'm sitting
invited
next
into
to
the box by Glenn.
That's right. And I was let's not go there. And I'm sitting next to this young man, and I shake his hand and said, "Who are you?" So I'm Bobby Berk. And I said, I'm Anthony Melchiorri. And I said, what do you do? He goes, I'm a designer. And by the way, in a couple of weeks, there's a show coming on Netflix called Queer Eye. I said, Queer Eye for the Straight Guy?
It was, I think, 2 days later. 2
days later?
Yeah, because I feel like we were there like February 4th.
Okay.
And the show came out February 7th.
Right. And I said to him, they're rebooting Queer Eye, and it's going to be on Netflix. And what were the next words out of my mouth?
Your life's about to change.
And has your life changed?
Changed a little bit.
Just a little bit, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I saw you last February, just a couple of weeks after the show came out, and you said that immediately, like a flip was switched.
A flip was switched? Yeah.
A switch was
flipped.
Yeah, right. Yeah, right. Right. Oh, I like how I switched the flip on the flip.
He switched it too. Yeah, I mean, it was crazy after season 1, but after season 2, it was even crazier. And after season 3, it's gotten even crazier. We've had 3 seasons come out in less than a year.
Wow. That's how many episodes total has it been?
How many episodes have people seen?
Right.
32?
That's a good question.
Yeah.
So there's still more.
No. 24. Wait a minute. Yeah, 24.
Yeah, it really takes up a whole lot of your life. So what is that process like of creating each of the episodes? How long do they take? What goes on?
Each episode takes about a week from start to finish. The initial steps are the crew going in and filming the backstory of our heroes, and then we meet the heroes on a Tuesday. I get the house on a Tuesday afternoon, and I have it back by Friday morning usually.
Wow, that's really fast.
But can we go all the way back? I want to go all the way back.
All right, we're going back.
Okay,
back.
and I was sitting next to Bobby this morning. I said, "Hey, Bobby, what do you want to talk
not
about?"
That far back.
And I said to him, he goes, "I trust you." So based on that, and I want to go back to last year when I met him, and when I met Bobby and we were talking, and I knew his life was going to change because my life changed, but I knew his was going to be on a much bigger scale. But I got this feeling of complete and just like I just love this guy. Mm-hmm. He is going to be okay. He is going to handle this, and it's going to be so big, but he's never going to change. And I hadn't seen him. I don't think I've seen you all year, right?
Not since last year here.
No, I mean we've been trying to put this meeting, the three of us together, for like 8 months.
Well, I broke my ankle. I couldn't do it. But and of course I met him again today, and I was like, oh my God, he hasn't changed. And this is a lot about his character. But one of the things I want to talk about your character, when you grew up in Missouri, you struggled for a number of reasons. And you left home at a very young age. And I want to talk about that because there's a lot of young kids struggling with different issues, whether it be being gay, whether it be not fitting in with their family, whether it being whatever it is. And I think it's really important because you're sitting here. Your show won an Emmy last year. You're Bobby effing Berk. You walk around. Everybody knows who you are.
Do you get the middle name with the Emmy, or does it, come in a separate package?
It's separate package.
So people see the glamour,
right?
But they don't see the work. And I know the show, and we'll talk about the show in a second. We'll talk about the work for the show in a second. But to get to the show, but even right before he got to the show, how many people were interviewed for the show for your position?
Probably close to 1,000.
1,000.
Wow.
Yeah.
So just to get on the show, he had to go, not just to get on, but 999 people had to lose for him to win, right? So that talks about his ethic and his discipline. But more important, before that, to get into the spot where you were prepared to basically win that spot, I want to know about that. I want to know leaving home, what you had to go through. What was your first kind of job in design when you went to New York and you worked in retail? Tell us a little bit about that.
Left home at 15. I'll do Clef notes here. Left home at
15.
Yeah, at 15, worked in retail, gas stations.
I can't imagine my kids are 15
Why'd you leave
now, and they would be dead in 20 minutes.
Why'd you leave home? Why'd you leave home at 15?
I lived in a really small town, very religious small town.
Right.
It wasn't really an option to come out, but I knew I had to. I couldn't live with a mask on anymore.
That's amazing that you recognized that at such an early age, that you knew who you were.
Yeah. So left home, went to the big city of Springfield, Missouri. Lived in my car, lived on friends' sofas, couch surfed a lot. And then I started selling long distance service at MCI.
Wow.
And I started making...
That was you?
Yeah, that was me that kept calling. And I started making amazing money, for a 17-year-old kid. I was 17 at the time, 16, 17. A lot of jobs in between that, though. Applebee's, gas stations, TGI Fridays, Gap, Body Shop, Express, Structure, all those. And after that, I decided to go to Denver. I really wasn't seeing my life going anywhere in Missouri. And Denver was the only place in the world I knew any other people other than Missouri. So I went to Denver. I was in Denver for about 3 years. And I had always liked design, but I didn't even have a high school diploma, so I couldn't really start doing design. My first kind of design-related job was the Bombay Company, if you remember them.
I do. Yeah. I remember them in the malls, and they had all of the fancy stuff in there.
Yep, the Haberdasher collection and the Jeeves, the little statue of the butler holding the tray.
With mini globes and stuff that, right?
And then I worked for the Great Indoors, which I don't know if you remember them. I think they were owned by Sears. It's just like a big, massive, like Home Depot / Best Buy /
I remember the Great Outdoors, but not the Great.
Yeah, the Great Indoors. They had everything for the indoors. And then it was around that time I decided to move to New York. Went to New York, fallen in love with somebody. That didn't work out, but I fell in love with the city, and
But it got you to New York.
Yeah, it got me to New York. So I moved to New York with about $100 in a suitcase, and looked for a job for about 3 months. Thought I could just get a job as a server, but in New York, you have to have New York City experience to get a job as a server. So the first job I got was a design manager at Restoration Hardware.
And Restoration Hardware, for people that don't know outside of New York, it's a big deal.
I mean, it's a big deal everywhere in the States now.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's really taken off, especially their hotel contract.
No, but to work there back then when you started working, it was a big deal to work there.
And then I got fired there.
Why'd you get fired?
While Tom Felicia was upstairs filming Queer Eye.
Are you serious?
Yeah, literally. Yeah.
Why'd you get fired?
Because I had been there really late the night before, getting the store perfect, forgot to clock everyone out. Went in the next day, noticed that the GM had clocked us out like 5 hours before we actually left. Went in, fixed everyone's time, including my own, which was against the rules. And I had just fired 3 people the week before for doing the same thing.
Oh, my God.
And so on a technicality, the GM had to fire me. Years later, though, when I got cast on the show, she messaged me and she's like, "Aren't you glad I fired you?" Her and I stayed friends after that. It wasn't like a very hostile firing. It was gonna have to. But yeah, Tom Felicia was literally upstairs filming the original Queer Eye while I was getting fired downstairs.
And were you aware of the show at the time? I'm sure.
Oh God, yeah.
And what did that mean? That show for someone, in that world, what did it mean for the gay community and for someone like yourself?
I mean, to see 5 gay guys who were real, they weren't actors, because at the time there was nobody on TV that was a real gay. Even Sean Hayes, Jack on Will and Grace, he wasn't out yet.
Right. Yeah. He also still kind of a little bit of a caricature.
Right. And did Ellen come out by then?
I think Ellen was out by then, but there were no gay guys. So to see 5 guys who were being successful in their fields and just regular people, and the world seeing that gays aren't guys with horns and tails, and
no,
we're just right. We're just regular people. That was very important to me, and very important to a lot of people.
Did you ever, at any point in your career, say, "I'd love to be on that show"?
I mean, of course, I probably thought it, but I didn't think that would ever be an option. I didn't think the show would come back. And back in the day, I was way too young to have ever been on the original. I mean, God, that was forever ago.
Right. Those people are old men.
Before social media.
The funny thing is, Jay Rodriguez, who was on there, I was with him the other night. He's the same age. Actually, is he a year younger than me?
What?
He's either a year younger or the exact same age as me. So he was really young when he was on the show. He was like 21, 22, and all the other guys
were in their 30s?
They were the ages that the rest of us are now. They were in their mid to late 30s, and Jay was like in his early 20s. So he was catapulted at a really young age into craziness.
So going through that transition, leaving home because you weren't accepted in your small community, going from Springfield to New York, getting fired, kind of just keep going at it.
Yeah, I've been fired from every job I've ever had.
But what is it? And I always try to get to the thing that keeps that person alive. Because these stories are great when people are successful. But so many people have your story, but just haven't gotten there yet. So why is Bobby different than anybody else? Like what's the thing, the drumbeat that keeps you alive?
I mean, I think my drumbeat was always just to prove everyone wrong that said I wasn't going to make it. God bless my mom, but I remember at some point her just always being like, "One day you're just going to end up in prison."
Wow.
I wasn't a rebellious child. I just wasn't like the docile, just want to ride horses with my parents all day child like my sister was. I had opinions. I had spunk. So just, proving everyone wrong. I think that's always been my drive. I don't know if kind of "I told you so" was a great drive, but hey, it worked for me.
Well, at some point you turned it from "I told you so" into motivation to keep continuing to make forward steps.
Yeah.
But also, I think what's really important, we were just talking about before, about like being on time, right? I think the discipline of success doesn't get spoken about enough.
Right.
And I think in order for people to be successful and really jump the shark, if you will, there's a discipline. I know in my own career, my own life, my own family, I mean, there's got to be a complete, like, just almost passion for the discipline. Because if you don't have that discipline, the other stuff doesn't come.
Yep. Yeah, you can't be lazy. You know, when I had my retail stores, I worked 7 days a week, 363 days a year for like 10 years straight. You know, and that's what
Right.
you had to do. You didn't get to take vacations and stuff. You just worked your ass off.
So in making the jump to TV, what was your biggest pleasant surprise, and what was your biggest, oh shit, this sucks?
I don't know if there's been anything that I've been like super surprised at. Well, I mean, the biggest surprise has been how successful the show's been. I mean, none of us thought it would be. Like, we all thought it would, you know, we'd film for a few months and then we'd go back to our regular lives and maybe a few people would see the show.
Right.
We had no idea it was going to be the cultural phenomenon.
It
that
really it exploded in such a way that you don't typically see shows exploding. You know, maybe you get the Game of Thrones or something, but to see something that taps into the cultural zeitgeist in such an incredible way, and to have that explosion, how phenomenal! You can't plan for something like that.
The little bald guy in Arizona sitting next to you knew it instantly. And it's true. True or not true? Didn't I say this is going to be huge? And I'll tell you why I knew it was going to be huge instinctively. Is because they and I'm not trying to blow smoke, but they cast you. You were real, you were intelligent, you were articulate, but more importantly, you were a true designer. So I knew if they got you, then there's somebody behind the scenes that knew kind of what they were doing. And then Netflix, Queer Eye was big back then, but now social media, it just felt like, holy crap. This makes perfect sense. So as soon as you said it, I was like, dude, next time you come here, I'm going to be holding your camera taking pictures of you and fans. And kind of that's what's happening. And it just all made sense. It just all made sense. What's the biggest, outside of time, because, you know, we were talking before about time is luxury, right? What's the biggest challenge, besides actually doing the work on the show, but just the whole celebrity thing?
The lack of privacy. You kind of don't have your own life anymore.
And even when you think you're alone, people are still watching you, right? Mm-hmm. So that's got to be a strange thing to just anytime you're in public have to be guarded. And you don't feel like you necessarily
when we were
be
sitting
yourself.
there having lunch today, I counted no less than 12.5 people that were walking by taking photos.
Right.
You know, it's just you always have to be kind of guarded.
Right.
You know,
it's the same thing for the both of you. I've been with you, Anthony, plenty when people want to take pictures with you. So how do you...
But there seems to be... I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you. Just hold that thought. It seems to be different because most people, hey, hotel guy, can I take a picture? Right. With you, it seems more emotional. It seems people are more attached to you emotionally. People are like, hey, the little pit bull from TV, that guy's cool. I like him. You know, he's direct. He's cool. And like I get a lot of DMs and a lot of stuff on Twitter that's just kind of emotional.
Right.
But in person, it's not as emotional. When I'm walking through with you, it seems people are very emotionally tied to you.
Oh, there's been many mornings in Starbucks where I literally am holding people on my shoulder where they're bawling, talking about how the show's affected them. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I love it, but some mornings I'm just like, can I get my coffee first?
But we all feel that way. But we got to all feel that way, right? Because to put out that energy to make sure each and every person feels special has got to be a constant challenge.
It is, and I always am very aware of making sure that I do that, because since our show does have such an emotional and positive effect on people, I would hate to allow some morning where I'm just having a really shitty morning personally to destroy the positive things that our show might have done for people. So I'm always very aware of always making sure that even if I am in no way, shape, or form in my own mental state to, you know, sit there and stand there and genuinely listen to the story, I always make sure I do, because, you know, I don't want to ruin the positive effect that our show's had on them.
Now, obviously, when you were recording the first season, you didn't say this is going to make an emotional connection in people's lives and make a difference, right? Because you had no idea any of this was going to happen.
No idea.
So what are some of the ways that people are finding that this has made a difference for them on a really personal level?
God, so many. I mean, I've had a lot of pastors reach out saying that they have always learned in their church that being gay was a choice and that, it's an abomination and you're going to hell. And then they've taught the same thing to their congregation. And then seeing me talk about how every single Sunday I would beg and pray and cry and plead for God not to make me gay brought them to the realization that, oh, wait, I'm wrong. They're not choosing to be this way. They were born this way, and that they'll never preach that hate in their church again.
Wow, that
so
is
things
tremendous.
like that have made it all worth it.
Because you sometimes
Wow.
think that people that have a lot of religious doctrine are just going to keep their minds closed with that particular issue. So for you to make a difference, to really turn around people's thoughts, and then they are their community leaders, that is absolutely phenomenal and huge.
What I was going through the airport. I'm going to ask you this question, but I'll share a quick story. I was going through the airport, going to Europe with my. I was going to a volleyball tournament with my daughter out in Reno with her teammates. We're going through a JFK, and this young lady, she was from Harlem, African American young lady. She comes up to me. She has a daughter in her arms, and I thought she knew me from the show. She points at me and she goes, Mr. Melchiorri. I say, hey, how are you? So you watch the show? She goes, no, I can't remember her name, but you came to my high school as a principal for the day, way before I was on TV, and you changed my life. You gave me a job at the Algonquin. You made me a hostess. I am now a nurse practitioner. I have a daughter, and I was living in my car. She actually was doing things that you would never want your daughter to do to make money. And she goes, because you took the time, and I literally took 1 minute to get her a job at a hotel, and boom, changed her life. So where has that, and that to this day stays with me as the greatest probably professional moment of my life. What was one person that came up to you in the last year that kind of left you speechless? Because the reverend, this priest that you were talking about, that kind of, I'll never forget that I didn't realize it was that kind of impact where you're getting calls from the clergy.
I mean, I would say probably a few dozen messages like that a day we get on Instagram. Wow. I used to try to keep up with them all, but A, I just couldn't. B, it was literally emotionally exhausting. I mean, I've gotten messages of people saying that they had woke up that day planning on killing themselves and somehow turned our show on.
Wow.
And changed their mind. So
usually people turn on Anthony and I's podcast and then go and
so yeah, I don't know if I can pinpoint.
Well, that's pretty powerful right there. Like, I wouldn't think it was dozens a day, and that's it turns out it's interesting. You want to be successful, you want to be known for being who you are, and it then turns into that 10x, right? As Grant Cardone would say, it's 10x, where you're so more than you ever thought it would be. It's like you are now changing not just a couple people's lives, you're changing thousands, potentially more than that, people's lives in a real way. And that simply comes down to you simply because you couldn't be anyone else but yourself. By you being you, now you're literally leaving like just a wave of people behind you, side of you, in front of you that's changing simply because you refuse to stay in that small town and you refuse to accept somebody else what their standard of normal was for you. That's powerful.
Yeah. Thank you.
I'm just amazed that television as a medium still can have such a dramatic effect on people's lives today. I mean, we're far away from that 3 networks where everybody's watching something at the same time. And a lot of people don't even watch TV anymore. So it's even more amazing to me that you're able to make such connections. So what's next? When's the next batch of shows coming?
Queer Eye, I don't know. I mean, maybe we're renewed for 4, maybe we're not. I don't know yet. We don't know. They don't tell us.
Right, because it's so successful. They're just gonna...
we did do 4 episodes in Tokyo, so that will be coming out soon. That was amazing. We thought it was going to be an absolute mess, honestly, with the language barrier and the cultural barrier, and it wasn't. It was the first episode. I think might be my favorite episode we've ever filmed.
Why?
Just because of the connection that I didn't expect to have with, an almost 60-year-old woman who did not speak a lick of English. And
You fell in love.
Yeah. And the moments where we would be waiting for translation, where I wouldn't be saying anything, she wouldn't be saying anything because our translator would be translating for us. And her and I would just sit there and like stare into each other's eyes and just start crying without saying anything. But just because we were having such a raw, how often do you stand there with a stranger and just stare into their eyes and just see the love and the
I
pain?
do that every Saturday afternoon at 42nd and 8th.
And that's when they call the cops. But the connection, it was amazing. And this woman's story is phenomenal.
And that's what is so strong about your show in general, is the connection. And if in any way, shape, or form, if even 5% of your show was fake, it wouldn't work.
Right.
That and to have the courage from all of you to be able to sit there and do and feel what you feel and to just have it exposed is kind of what the secret is. When people say, what's the secret? The secret is just don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to stare in that 60-year-old Japanese woman's eyes and cry. And why? I don't know, because she was just there and we had this connection. And I think that's so powerful. And I've never been jealous of you except when you were in Tokyo, because my dream is to go to Japan. I said to my daughter, I did that one of those DNA things for Christmas. And I said, I think I'm Japanese. I think we're a little Japanese because all my kids look Asian. And she goes, Dad, you just ate a sushi roll. All of a sudden you think you're Japanese, right? But I've always had this just emotion towards Japan. What was your biggest...
Maybe you were Japanese in your last life?
Maybe I was. Maybe I'm going to be Japanese in my next life. Maybe I'm that 60-year-old woman. Maybe, who knows? I could have been. What was the biggest surprise about Japan?
Biggest surprise. I've been to Japan a lot, so there really weren't that many big surprises. No, it was definitely not my first time. But I think I was surprised at the connection we were still able to have with them, even though we didn't speak the same language and we had to deal with a translator the whole time. We were still able to connect. We were still able to have a very emotional impact on every single one of our heroes.
So I got a question in regards to it, being that this is theoretically a design
You
podcast.
literally took the word. I said, since we're a design show, I'm going to give it back to Glenn. You literally took the words out of my mouth.
That's why I love working with you so much, because we're on the same page. But Bobby, I'm curious as to when you do designs in America, how does that different when you go to Japan and you have to create something for those people?
So the last episode we did was 300 square feet divided into 2 rooms and a bathroom.
My goodness. And I thought my studio apartment in Manhattan back in the day was small.
You also, in Japan, if it's a rental, you can't paint the walls. You can't hang anything on the walls. You can't do anything to the flooring. You can't really do anything. So we had to get really creative.
Yeah. So what do you do?
Tension poles and removable wallpaper and building custom furniture and custom lofts, all of which could be removed if needed to be.
Now you had said on a typical episode, you get the space on a Tuesday. It's done by Friday. Do you go in blind that first time, or do you already have a sense of what the space is?
No, I've already seen the space.
Right.
I mean, it's common knowledge. I never want to hide that and
Right.
lie about that. I don't go into big detail in the space, though. I've got to get in the space. I've got to figure out flooring. I've got to email Carolina at Porcelanosa and be like, girl, I need this much flooring in 4 days. Make it happen. And she always does.
And she's sitting on the floor smiling.
So things that we can't just run into a store and get. We have to pre-plan window treatments, flooring, if kitchen cabinets are salvageable, the countertops that I need Porcelanosa to send. Porcelanosa was very, very generous, providing materials for not 1, but 2 seasons.
Wow.
One that will be coming out soon. So they were one of the reasons why I could make a whole episode like that happen for $20,000.
That's amazing.
When my construction budget is usually completely eaten up. When you're doing construction that normally would take months and you're doing it in a day and a half, of course, they charge a premium for that. Because they've got to send in, their whole company to make it happen. So, painting a house that would normally cost maybe $1,000 will cost me $5,000 to $10,000.
Wow.
Because they've got to do it quick.
There's nothing I hate more than scuff marks on a wall. ScuffX delivers superior scuff resistance in the most challenging, high-traffic commercial environments, thanks to its patent-pending scuff-resistant technology. Yes, there's people in the lab somewhere thinking about how to keep scuffs off walls. Where we're running around like crazy, there are actually scientists trying to figure this stuff out, and no one's done it better than ScuffX. I would not endorse this product if I didn't believe in this product. As a hotelier, it is so important to solve this problem because we spend so much money, so much time on painting hotel rooms that we finally found the solution. And I don't think anyone does it better than ScuffX. The high-performance ScuffX latex paint reduces the need for touch-ups, repaints, offers significant savings on long-term maintenance costs. And for all the information you need, go to benjaminmoore.com. How much of your design is influenced by the person that you're actually doing it for? And sometimes you have to just completely go against every single thing that is in your instinct to ensure that they're comfortable in the space. I don't know if that question makes sense.
Well, how I find it so personal is like before I go out a few weeks before the other boys, I get a warehouse and I basically make my own store. I order tons of stuff from all different types of art, all different types of accessories, bedding, pillows, lighting, and I fill a warehouse full of stuff, and I basically have my own store. And then that week when I meet them, I figure out personal things about them, things their likes, their dislikes, and then I have a big box truck lined with shelves on each side, and I go into the warehouse and I pull everything that I think goes along with their personality. I put it in the truck, I park it out in front of their house, and we have our own little mobile store that we go out and pull stuff and bedding. And so there's tons of pre-planning that goes into it, but the personal touches really do happen that week. And then if we don't have the things that we need to really make it feel like home for them, we do still run out to stores that week and try to find as much as we can. There hasn't really ever been a time that I've had to like go against every fiber of my being on a design. Like I stay pretty true to the way I would want to do it, and also at the same time making sure that they feel at home. But that's also like people are like, oh, you use blue and gray all the time. Why don't you use other colors? I'm like, I'm not going to use other colors just to use other colors. Right. I'm like, when they list that their favorite color is blue, I want them to feel comfortable in their house. I'm not going to go in and use orange or green if they like blue. Blue's going to make them happy, so I'm going to use blue. And gray is also a safe color. Oh. I want to make sure that our heroes don't walk into their space and be like, oh, God, this is horrible, and I have to live here now. I don't have the money to change this.
So that's interesting.
So I try to be as neutral as possible on some things.
Right, so you actually ask them a little bit about their personality ahead of time so you could match the aesthetic to who they are.
So producers have a questionnaire that they give them. It rarely helps me at all. It's like, what's your favorite home store? And they're like, Walmart. Right. So usually like I'll get a favorite color. Like one guy was like, what's your favorite color? Like the rainbow. I'm like, fuck you, man. Give me something. So it's usually the things that have nothing to do with design, because most of our heroes, they can't articulate what their design aesthetic is. They don't, just like me growing up in Missouri, they don't think about that. What do you mean my design aesthetics? Just give me my recliner, it's right. They don't think about it. So it's asking different questions like, where would you want to go on vacation? What's your favorite TV show? When you start asking them about other types of things that they do know what they like, it's easier to get into their head of what the personal touches you can add to their home. Like the episode I don't even remember it was season 1 or 2. It was Remy. He had inherited his grandmother's home, which was very 70s, shag carpet. He didn't know what his aesthetic was. Right. But his dream vacation was Cuba, and his favorite show was Mad Men. I'm like, 50s.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
50s, yeah. Cuba's stuck in the 50s. Mad Men's from the 50s. So I did mid-century look with like a mural from Cuba, and he's like, oh my God, I didn't even know this is what I love, but this is what I love. I'm like, because I asked you questions about things that had nothing to do with design, and when you put things in your house that you're passionate about, then your house will make you happy.
Is there one person's reaction that stands out among all the others? Bobby's thinking.
I'm thinking.
A tough one, huh?
Yeah.
Anthony's asking the stumper today.
I mean, I don't think there's one that stands out more than the others. No. I mean, they were all been, I think that episode that I just mentioned, Remy, I think his reaction to, because his father had passed maybe a year or two before we filmed, and his dad literally died in his arms.
Oh, boy.
They were having Sunday dinner, and his dad passed out on the floor and died in his arms. So seeing Remy's reaction to the photos that I had found of him and his father. When there's that emotional reaction, that sticks in my mind. I love it when they're like, wow, look at my new house, this is great. But when I'm able to really touch them like that, that's, yeah.
Is that your goal going in, or does that just kind of
Oh, absolutely.
happen?
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, it's TV.
Right.
Do I want to make a beautiful home for them? Absolutely. Do I want them to feel like it's their home? Absolutely. Do I want to put things in it that are going to pull on some emotional cords? Yes.
Right.
Because if we
TV.
didn't,
Right.
you wouldn't want to watch, you
So,
know?
what
So
was
it's never a manipulative thing. I know that, like, for example, episode 2, I think, of season 1, Corey, the cop, he had tons of his father's clothes in his closet to where him and his wife couldn't even get their own clothes in there because his father had passed away, and he just could not let go of his father's clothes. It was too emotional. So Tan and I took his father's clothes and his favorite shirts and jeans, and we cut them up and we turned them into a quilt.
Wow.
And, because I didn't want to be like, you need to throw these clothes away, you need to donate them, you need to let go. But he did. He did need it to let go. He did need to not hold on to the past. It's so much for the fact that, his wife and his clothes were laying on the floor because they couldn't hang them up. But he still needed to hold on to that. So we needed to find a way to pull at his emotional heartstrings, but not just for the show's sakes, but for his, to give him that thing, where he could literally curl up and cover up with his dad's clothes.
But when you were cutting his father's clothes, were you scared?
A little, yeah. There's always that chance when you're doing something that is going to have an emotional effect that it could go the wrong way. But, you get to know them real quick. Because you guys see 42 to 48 minutes of our time spent with them. We spend like 40 to 60 hours with them.
I mean, and that cop wanted nothing to do with you. Like, as far as, like, he did not believe... Like, he was against homosexuality. I remember he was... Was it him or was it another cop?
No, that was Bobby Camp. That was the one with all the kids.
Oh, okay.
Corey was just a Trump-loving, MAGA-wearing cop from good old Georgia, Now he's actually not a cop. He is running for public office, not as a Republican.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah,
Do you think that the experience working with you on the show changed his opinions?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Because we really would go into it listening. Right now, no one listens to each other. They just go in and they yell and they scream and they try to just force their opinion on everyone. We go in and we just listen and we hear what they have to say. And then when we talk, they listen to us. And they see us as people instead of just, those liberals. Because we've listened to what they have to say. We listen and respect their opinion, and we treat them like people, and we don't just look at them as a vote or a certain political affiliation.
Isn't that amazing?
It really has an effect on people.
Do you
people
find
listen?
it difficult, though, if somebody is so different from you when it comes to a lot of the social issues that we see out there, to put yourself into that situation and change their lives?
Yes. Especially season 1 and 2, it was very hard. There were moments where we didn't want to finish episodes.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how do you dig down deep in order to do it?
You get a call from legal and you say, okay.
I was hoping he would answer that honestly.
I can't believe you were that honest.
No, I was hoping he would answer that honestly. I was like, dude, I know why.
There have been moments where we've worked through it, because of things that people have said to us that have helped us.
Right.
Because season 1, there were nights I would just go home and bawl and cry because it's way more emotional in real life than what you guys even see on television. Like we go through an emotional roller coaster with people. Season 3, not as hard because I think we've grown and we've learned how to not internalize that, and we've learned how to work through it and talk about it more. When season 1 and 2, we didn't know what we were doing. We didn't know what this show was. We just knew that we were having these really crazy emotional connections with perfect strangers that you normally would not have, and it was overwhelming.
Right.
The
Perfect Strangers, totally underrated sitcom, by the way. I'd highly recommend
Oh,
it. Never go back to the
Balky.
80s on that one.
The scene that I remember was when the cop pulled your partner over, and there was a white cop pulling over an African
It was
American.
Caramel's fault. I was supposed to be driving that day.
So tell me what happened. Because I literally was blown away.
It was supposed to be funny. Like, the producers set that up. When I
How is that funny in any way?
well, like I said, I go out to the houses before everybody else. The producers are usually with me. They were like, "Oh, wouldn't it be funny if we had the cop partner pull them over on the way and then be like, oh, it's my friend, and give us an escort to the house." And I overheard them talking about that. So when they decided to do it, they were like, "All right, well, we're going to tell you because otherwise you're going to know it's not real." And so they're like, "We want you to drive so you know what's going on, and if anything happens, you can be like, guys, this is fine. It's just And again, that was our that was our second episode. So we were still figuring things out. But Karamo wanted to drive that day because it was an hour and a half, almost 2 hour drive. And Karamo almost has narcolepsy, I think. And the moment he gets in a car, he just falls asleep. So he's like, "Let me drive. I want to drive." And I'm like, "No, you don't want to drive today. Don't trust me. You don't want to drive today. You don't want to drive today." But he took the keys, and I was like, "Okay, this is about to turn into something way different than the joke it's supposed to be." But at the end, we were all kind of glad it did.
Because he's African American and the cop was white.
It started a conversation. Karamo almost walked off the show that day. He was really upset, and rightly so.
Could you explain a little bit
more
about
thought
what
it
happened
was
for folks that hadn't seen that particular episode?
We were driving to meet our hero's house, to our hero's house to meet him, and we were pulled over by a cop while driving. Karamo didn't have his license on him because it was in the camera car in front of us. The cop was very aggressive about, "You should have your license on you," And the funny thing is, that officer, him and Karamo are they text all the time now. They're friends. That officer is the farthest from white asshole racist cop you'll ever meet. He's one of the coolest guys ever.
Well, why was he pushing about the driver's license? Was it just
because
all set up?
I think in his mind, he wasn't looking at this as a racial thing. He was looking at it, "Oh, I'm being funny, and I'm going to be like, oh, haha, funny. I'm actually," because he was the one that nominated Corey to be on there.
Right.
So and then he was like, "Oh, what show are you guys filming?" And we're like, "Queer Eye." He's like, "Oh, haha, I'm Corey's friend." In his mind, it was funny joke,
right.
But it was not funny joke to Karamo and Tan, because they thought it was real.
Oh my goodness.
The cop knew it wasn't real, so in his mind, he wasn't thinking that, "Oh, these guys are freaking out."
He probably also wasn't thinking that they weren't in on the joke.
Right,
either.
exactly. So it did not go over very well. On camera, it looked like Karamo was cool with it, but he was not. And then, fast forward 45 minutes when we get to Corey's house, and there's a Trump sign in the front yard and a MAGA hat in the bedroom, and Karamo was like,
I've had
"Get
enough."
me out of here." He almost didn't come back the next day.
Wow.
But it created a conversation between him and Corey that needed to happen about the tension between Black Lives Matter and police officers, and both, again, just listening to each other and realizing that Corey was not, Corey admitted, he's like, there are unfortunately a lot of asshole cops out there that abuse their power and are racist and have no business being cops. He's like, but on the other hand, there's so many more that are great people, that really are there to protect and serve. And he was one of those cops. Yeah. And I think it was not only healing for him, but it was healing for Karamo as well, because sometimes you do lump people into one category because of some bad apples in their field. And it's good sometimes to see that there are good people out there,
and it's in every career field.
Right.
So it's there's assholes in every career field. So I don't think it's any more relevant or prevalent in the police field than it is in any other field. But that was a scene that I was took my breath away.
Yeah,
because I couldn't imagine he wasn't more angry or angrier.
It didn't actually almost make the show. There was some executives at Netflix that were furious. They thought it was set up to happen like that. Right. They thought that the producers put Karamo in the driver's seat for that to happen, and that wasn't the case. But they felt that the world was going to think that was, and the world was going to rip us apart. And they were they almost deleted the entire episode.
Yeah, that's a moment. That's a moment right there.
Karamo had to write a letter telling the executives that he wanted that scene in there. He wanted the conversation in there that happened, because it really set the tone for the show that no matter how far across the aisle you think you are from people, you're really not. You're just the same.
And I think what your show is doing is it's opening up that dialogue to break down the barriers between the differences that we have and reveal that we're all just people looking for the same things at the end of the day.
And I think what's really important to understand for people that have never been on TV and never really understand reality television, how it works, you can have producers, you can have legal, you can have all these people behind the scenes doing and pulling strings in a whole bunch of different ways. The camera, they say action. And that relationship between the host and the other person, the hero, as you say, it's 100% emotional, transparent, and real. And that's why all the other people, and I hate to say it to all of them, they have jobs. Because when they say action, you allow yourself to be vulnerable, and you allow yourself to be scared, and you allow yourself to be in the moment. And there's something that can't be taught. And I wouldn't be able to explain it or understand it if I wasn't in that situation a couple of hundred times, where it's like I go on autopilot. I don't care about the network. I don't care about the rating. I don't care about how I look. I care about one thing only. Is the person in front of me, does he believe me? Does he believe that I really care about him? Yes, he sees the producers, he sees the cameras, he knows we need to get good ratings. But if he doesn't truly believe in my heart that I'm willing to die for him right there on the camera and that I will give him whatever it is, whatever I need, that I believe I need to give him, I have to give it to him, and I don't care about anything else. And there's that, it's the purest really emotion outside of personal emotion with my family in a business setting that I've ever experienced. I can't even explain. It's just, there's a freedom almost in that moment. It's almost like you're in water and you're just floating through water. It's just a really an amazing feeling of purity. And the second that you filter it with ridiculousness, fakeness, it loses purity. And the reason that scene went sideways is because it was set up. If it wasn't set up, it would have been, a whole different feeling.
Yeah. But I think it also shows us as human beings that sometimes we bring all of these preconceived notions with us that we believe to be the absolute truth when maybe it might not be, right? Maybe there are asshole cops. Maybe they aren't all asshole cops. Maybe there are really asshole drivers, and maybe there really aren't, right? And I think we could extrapolate that into all other parts of our lives. Yep. And again, I think the real lesson is to just be open and honest with each other, so we could all move forward together as Americans in this particular case.
What I find, and maybe because you're so isolated when the camera's on, it's you and that person. That person doesn't have his crew, doesn't have his family, doesn't have his business associate. It's you and him. So he has no outside influence other than you on that camera, and there's a lot that gets stripped away in that moment that they just forget about, and they become that person, that just human that they were born as, and all the influences around them. I would imagine growing up the way you grew up, there's a lot of people that are living a very frustrated life in that community because they were told the things you were told, but because of how you were born as far as your spirit, you refused to do that. And I think once you're allowed to truly listen to people, you realize everything else is noise.
Yeah. All right, so we've been doing a lot of checking in type talk. Let's do a little more hotel design type of talk. I want to bring it back to here in Las Vegas, judging this box competition. What are you offended about now?
I don't know, just your
presence. It's really hard to keep up with you. I offend him all the time, Bobby.
I mean, I've spent a while with you in Spain, so I can understand that.
I forgot you guys go from Spain.
Yeah, we met in Spain originally.
This is going to quickly turn into something that I was not prepared for.
I want to know about Spain.
Well, we'll always have to. Okay, so
we'll always have Barcelona.
Okay, so you guys are here. You're judging this box competition, right? And the whole idea behind it is to have several different hotel design groups do kind of like an Iron Chef kind of a thing, where they're given a theme, and then they have 24 hours to go and design the perfect space. What are some of the things that you saw today? What are some of the things that you're excited about today? And what are you thinking about the overall state of hotel design? I know.
I mean, we can edit out silences.
I'm
thinking.
I believe the winner was. Yep. One of the things that we asked is that we want to be wowed. I want a word to come out of my mouth. I want the word wow to come out of my mouth. And I think the winner, what was the design
Urban
name?
Robot.
Urban Robot. They were able to bring the outside in.
Yes.
And
in a standard king room.
Like biophilic design type.
Yes, you get in good hotels a lot of good indoor outdoor space, but never usually in a standard room size. A nice suite, a villa, you'll get some good indoor outdoor space. He was able to design in a standard king size room where you've got a great outdoor bathtub, a great outdoor shower, and really bringing the indoors in, which I think the outdoors in, which I think is really important in hotel design. And one of the evolutions of it is giving you that expansive space that makes it feel more connected to nature.
And the more brands we have, Marriott has 32 brands just in the Marriott umbrella. And the more, outside of a few of the brands, and they're starting to look a lot alike. I can't tell one brand from another brand sometimes. And so when I saw that, I was like, okay, finally. All right, that feels different. Like I've been to the Nomad, that felt different. I've been to several hotels that felt different. But when you're talking about the 3-4 star brands, they just all feel like the same colors, the same couches, the same feeling, the same flooring. And so it was nice to see the difference. And also the functionality of the room. He really thought of, but not overdoing it. One of the things was, I don't like technology for the sake of technology. And he was able to do it in a real way where it worked for what it needed to be, but it wasn't more than it needed to be.
Yeah.
Well, I think the big issue, the big thing that we're talking about here really is that whole notion of biophilic design. And I'm seeing a lot more hotels and hotel companies start to edge in that direction as they realize it makes people feel better about themselves. It makes people healthier. In fact, patients in hospitals recover quicker if they're in a building that has biophilic design to it. Employees are more engaged in their workplace in offices that have biophilic design. So I'm a big believer this is the future. So if you were to design your own hotel incorporating some of those biophilic elements, what are the first places that you would look to? And if you need to, we could create a location for it. Oh, yeah, of course, porcelanosa. With a lot of their varieties of flooring as well.
Well, they're Cryon. I mean, It's cleaning the air. It's pretty. I'm getting ready to use it in my own home. Now, where would I look? What do you mean, where would I look?
I mean, what are some of the design elements that you would put in? Sorry, I don't have the same design vocabulary as you might have.
I mean, definitely functionality. I live in a very digital world. I need chargers. I need USB ports. I need good storage. I need good closets. A good bathroom counter. Nothing annoys me more. I was at, I was at the Viceroy in Cabo a few weeks ago, and the bathroom was just beautiful. I forgot who the architect was. It wasn't originally a Viceroy. Again, forget who the architect was, but beautiful, like all white, super modern, just breathtaking. And it was one of those sinks that the whole counter actually was the sink. And then it just had a piece of wood that floated over it that you could put your stuff on. But then sometimes you'd forget that it was a whole sink, so you'd put your stuff in there, and then the water would come on, and it would get wet. So to me, I don't know if I'm rambling now, but bathroom is really important, especially for me when traveling for the show and stuff. I need a place I can really get ready, good lighting in a bathroom. I hate it.
Doesn't exist.
No, it does.
I'm starting to see
very
more and
few
more
hotels.
now.
Very few hotels.
I agree, more and more, but like I love the Endez on Wall Street.
Okay.
The bathrooms are beautiful,
That's
but
been-
they're all black.
Right.
And it's so hard to get ready in there. And I love that hotel. I've literally spent weeks in that hotel. But I used to always get frustrated because the bathroom's all mirrored, but it's kind of like that smoky mirror that still doesn't.
Right.
Yeah. So it's very important to me to have bathrooms that you can get ready in, but that can still be moody. The right lighting in a room. You need enough lighting, but you also need the right amount of mood lighting.
Well, let me give a shout out to the Park MGM, where I am staying right now, and I am in one of their Stay Well rooms, which has air fresheners. It has a special bed. It's got great lighting in the bathrooms, but the one thing it does have is different lighting settings that you could do. One that energizes, one that relaxes, one that's for circadian rhythms and stuff. And it has
One that's
all
for the
different
disco.
tones and textures. Yeah, all of those kinds of things. Maybe not the disco, but
Hey, the scent thing I'm actually very against. I'm sorry, fragrance is literally the only ingredient on anything in America that they don't have to list what is in it. Have you ever noticed that? When you buy
never thought
something,
about it.
When you buy something, it lists every single ingredient, and then it just says fragrance. And there could be hundreds of ingredients in that fragrance to create the fragrance.
right.
But they don't have to say what it is.
Right.
So
yeah,
fragrance
our new
in a
hotel
hotel
smell-
room.
Right. Our new
How
hotel
about in the
smell
lobby?
now with
How about in the
Roundup.
lobby?
Honestly, I'm against fragrances. I think there's way too many other things in the world giving us cancer just to put it in there just for the hell of it.
That's interesting.
Never
thought of
if
that
it
way.
were a completely natural essential oil that was creating the fragrance, absolutely. But I highly doubt that a hotel is. I mean, that's not a cheap thing to do, especially in the amount that they need.
So, what excites you most about where hotel design is going these days?
I think what excites me the most is companies are really starting to pay attention about the impact that hospitality has on the environment. I mean, hospitality has a huge impact on the environment, and companies are starting to realize that and do something about it and try to be better and try to not, have such a huge carbon footprint. And, the companies that are really out there trying to have a zero carbon footprint are where we need to be heading.
It's interesting. In traveling as much as we do, I go to so many hotels, and yes, a lot of them are environmentally friendly, but there's still a lot of plastic. Whether it be plastic spoons, plastic bottles, and I go to I'm looking at one right now.
Freaking coffee cup annoyed the hell out of me this morning. I'm like, why does that need to be wrapped in plastic?
Right.
And why did you need to put two of them in there together? I might not need.
But why
two
do we
of
need
them.
plastic water bottles? I go to a natural a health food deli in my area called Claudette's, and they have. I'm not a big box water fan. I don't like box water, but I'd rather drink box water than drink water out of plastic. Mm-hmm. They have forks and knives and straws, all made out of paper. And is it as good as plastic? It isn't. But it doesn't affect my life that much that I can't make a 2-second or, adjustment. And I'm very
slightly soft
right.
after being in my coffee for 6 hours. Yeah, but you know what? At least it's not going to be stuck in some turtle's nose.
Yeah, exactly.
There's a lot to say, but I'll keep it all. I'll keep it all away. But so when I go there, I go to Claudette's. More and more every time I walk in, there's something else that I don't see anywhere else. So I'm really impressed with that, and whether it be the all natural ingredients they use or just even the lighting, the mood lighting they have. And it's like haven't seen one hotel use a paper box, water. I haven't seen them use, wooden straws or wooden utensils.
I think the paper straws.
I haven't.
I'm starting to see it more. I came in from London yesterday, and I was at the Corinthia, and all the water bottles in the rooms were glass. Straws were paper. When I was in Mexico 2 weeks ago at Unico, which is a new resort owned by Hard Rock, it is a straw-free resort. There were some plastic water bottles, but not as many as you would see. And they seem to use a lot more reusable things.
I think you're going to see in the next 5 years, it's almost all going to go that way.
It's going to have to. I mean, the EU just banned single-use plastics. By 2022, there's tons of single-use plastics that will not be allowed in Europe. So hopefully the rest of the world will catch up with that. Unfortunately, the administration in our country has a burn the whole place down mentality at the moment. But, I think companies aren't, just like with California. California sets these standards for emissions for cars. And although other states don't have those same standards, car companies aren't going to build two different cars.
Right, of course.
They're going to follow the most stringent standards. So hopefully now with the EU having banned so many of the single-use plastics, companies will say, all right, we're not going to make two different types of things. We're just going to make a good one for everybody.
Yeah.
So hopefully that'll have a big effect on people.
Yeah, well, that certainly makes a whole lot of sense. And for those of you who want to learn more about the London Corinthia Hotel, I did a podcast with their CEO back in December on the No Vacancy Network. So check out that particular
beautiful
podcast.
property.
It is absolutely gorgeous,
so pretty,
because they took such an amazing historic building and then transformed it into the pinnacle of luxury.
The only thing I would say is the carpet in the big grand staircase in their lobby, that when you are wearing new shoes and you're in a nice tuxedo on your way to the BAFTAs and you go down those stairs and the carpet's slippery and you fall all the way down them in front of the whole lobby, not so good.
Do you know someone that happened to?
I do. I do know somebody that happened to just like 48 hours ago, but luckily no one got it on tape.
And
actually, I'm sure it's on a security tape somewhere.
But I would imagine.
I think I saw it on TMZ.
Yeah. I would imagine the person that happened to at the end of their fall just got up and looked at the camera and was like, at the security camera, of course, and said, "Meant to do that."
Oh yeah. It was funny though, because the whole lobby stopped and gasped And then I just started laughing, and then everyone else started laughing. It was fine, and then
What happened to
and
you?
Then I got in the car and I quietly cried.
Well, none of that would have happened if they used some quality LVT flooring from Porcelanosa.
Have we said Porcelanosa enough on this podcast?
No, you know what's funny? In all the shows that I've been doing for the Hotel Design Podcast, we've never really talked about Porcelanosa during the show, so it's fun to be able to do it.
Do your flooring, do your kitchen. There's really nothing to it. Yeah, there. There we go. That's your new theme song.
Caroline is in the corner with her head buried. So, should we wrap this thing up, or do you guys want to talk for another 4 hours?
Well, I was going to say, because you usually say, Bobby, what do you want to plug about your life, or where can people find you, or you're writing a book, you're making a movie, what are you doing?
My furniture line is launching. It'll be in stores in September, October here in the States. It's already in stores in Asia now. What else?
What can we expect from the furniture line? What types of pieces, or is it
everything?
Everything?
Bedroom, living room, dining, outdoor, occasional.
How do you go?
Yeah, we were going to ask the same question.
No, you were going to say, how do you have the time? I was going to say, how do you go about?
No, I was going to say, how long does it take you to do it?
Yeah. How do you go about, where do you start with your design for furniture?
We put together a collection of 78 SKUs in less than a year.
Where does it start? I want to know, how does that start?
And the timeline was, a year was knocked off the original timeline. So originally we weren't supposed to launch until, what year is it? 2019? We weren't supposed to launch until like summer of 2020. And my partners, we sell wholesale here in the States, but they have their own stores across China. And their stores change their floors every April. Mm-hmm. So if we didn't launch this April, we wouldn't have been able to, it would have been a whole year we would have missed. So they're like, can we knock a year off the time frame? And I'm like, sure. And we did. And we pretty much did two different collections, because although the collections, a lot of the pieces are the same, the finishes are different, the fabrics are different for the China market. Right. Some of the sizing is different for the China market. So we did basically two collections. So there's probably about 100 SKUs in the collection. What's
the biggest difference between the Asian market and the American market as far as when you're designing furniture?
Different finishes. Like the most popular finish over there is kind of like a whitewashed, kind of a light, almost white finish.
So it's really, like our politics. We just like to whitewash everything.
That's a really big color finish over there, which over here it really isn't.
Well, it was like 20 years ago, right? No, maybe longer.
No, it's different. It's close but different.
Okay.
I got a question for you.
Yeah.
When is Formica going to come back? Because I got a lot of people that still have their 80s kitchens they need to change up.
Who is she?
A lot of my mom's friends.
I don't know Formica.
She was related to Bell Bottom.
I thought Formica went away forever.
Nothing ever goes away forever.
So,
Glenn keeps coming back.
On our check-in show that Anthony and I do together, which is available on iTunes and all that, we'd like to wrap up each show with one question for our guest. Tell us something we don't know about you.
Oh. Maybe I don't want to. No. Something you don't know about me.
Something different, something unusual, something that you don't normally share. Maybe you like deer hunting. I don't know.
No. I used to mutton bust.
What?
I used to mutton bust.
Really?
You know
me
what
too.
Is?
No idea.
You know what bull riding is,
sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So mutton busting is bull riding for kids, but it's sheep instead of bulls.
Which is mutton.
Mutton. Yep. So mutton busting. I used to ride bucking sheep.
like in
as
competitively?
Sport, yeah.
Competitively.
In rodeos. Yeah.
And how good were you?
I was really good until I fell off and hit my head on a rock and it bled, and then my mother never let me do it again.
They didn't give you a helmet?
What's the 80s?
Yeah, come on.
You didn't use helmets. You need to wear seatbelts.
Mutton busting. There's a show.
Yeah.
Mutton busting. Wow.
Yeah, Google that, youngins.
So, Glenn, tell us something we don't know.
Yeah.
Tell us what you used to do with sheep.
Well, we've already got the explicit rating. One time in my fraternity.
Caroline from I can't even speak.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I don't have a lot of interaction with farm animals, although
A lot or none?
No, none.
Okay, thank you. Let's
None.
really
None.
be specific.
Porcelanosa just pulled their name off of this.
Although I did one time have
Although their surfaces are very cleanable.
right.
They're very durable.
All right, but to keep
You
it
can
in the-
mutton bust and still clean.
to keep it in the animal. To keep it in the animal story thing, I've been spit on by both a camel and a llama.
You've been what?
Spit on by
What
both
that
a
you
camel
said
and
sit
a
on.
I was sat on by a horse once.
I had a horse fall over on me and pin me over when I was little.
That happened to me. I
Yeah.
was horseback riding, and then all of a sudden it was like hot day out, and it got down. I'm like, "What's going on?" And they're
No.
like, "Get off!" I'm
Mine
like,
was-
"What?" And it rolled right. on
Mine
top
was
of
an
me.
old pony, and he tripped and fell, and then just couldn't get back up,
Aw,
and
poor
I was
baby.
underneath.
Aw.
Yeah.
What about you, Anthony? Tell us something we don't know.
You know what? I was thinking, what should I tell you? But you gave me an entree into my horse story. You ready?
All right, I'm ready.
So I'm doing a show in where was I? I was in Panama. Let's say Panama. Yeah, I was in Panama, and I'm
Panama, the country, or like Panama City, Florida?
Panama, the country.
Okay.
So the gentleman that owns the ranch, it was like a resort plus a farm, and he was a horse guy. So he go over his ranch. He's growing all these vegetables, and you know,
He was a rancher, but he was growing vegetables. That's a farmer.
well, he does both. Ranched, farm, did everything, right? He was
Come on, city boy.
he was a Renaissance man. He was mutton busting. It was fantastic. And so he said, "You want to go horseback riding?" I said, "Sure," but yeah, I'm a competitive guy. So we get on the horses, and all of a sudden, he said, "Can we race?" So the camera guys would get all the cameras ready. So okay,
You're like the perfect size to be a jockey.
I am. I'm perfect. I'm a little too small to be a jockey. But so they said, okay, set up the cameras. It's okay. So I said, let's race. He said, go. So anyway, this guy's been riding horses his whole life, but apparently I can ride a horse, and I've ridden him before. And I take off and I beat him, and I'm like so proud of myself. I just beat this guy at his own game. So we get off the horses. Now we're going to basically open up a coconut. So we got the machete. The guys open up the coconut. And he turns to me. Doesn't Glenn look bored when I'm telling this story?
No, I'm fascinated.
I try not to look at you.
And
You and my wife.
so all of a sudden, I turn back to his horse. And he's hung like a horse. And not the
horse or
gentleman.
the farmer?
Not the farmer, the horse. And so everybody starts laughing. And now I know why I won, because my horse was trying to get away from his horse. I thought it was funny. You didn't think it was that funny. All right.
I don't know what to say to that.
Well, I asked a young lady who's associate producer. I said, she grew up on a horse farm. I said, ever see anything that big? And she goes, I swear to God, I've seen 1,000 horses. That horse wins the prize.
I was at a wedding in Cabo a couple weeks ago, and one of my best friends, her mom, saw a burro in Cabo, as you often do, and the burro was
hung like a horse.
And so she proceeded to take a picture, and then the whole weekend, like, go around showing everybody, look at this. And I'm like, here's my friend's mom, who is this like sweet, like not like a crazy lady at all, but was just like dumbfounded by this. Had never grew up in the city, had never seen that, and I'm just like, this is awkward.
Look at this.
Yeah, she's like, look. I'm like, no, guys, don't look.
So did we make you uncomfortable with our stories, Glenn?
No, just for the last hour and a half or so.
You know what? This was fun. We tried to get Bobby on
Yeah.
the show for a year, and we finally did it. And my friend, it's an honor to call you a friend. And I honestly couldn't have been happier for you if last year happened to me. I mean, you deserve it. You respect it, which is important to me, that people respect what they get and what they have and what they've earned, and you respect it. And that really is powerful.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you for listening to this amazing crossover show. Hotel Design Podcast meets Checking In with Anthony and Glenn. Of course, you can find both these shows on their respective feeds, both on iTunes, on Google Play, and wherever you can find all your podcasts. And, of course, find the Hotel Design Podcast on Porcelanosa's website as well. And please subscribe to our show, and you're going to absolutely love it. Thank you, Bobby, for being here.
Thanks for having me.
So for Anthony, Bobby, and myself, Glenn, thanks for checking in to the Hotel Design Podcast.
It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn, teaching you to be the hotelier that you wanna be. It's Checking In with Anthony and Glenn.